So I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Darien, Connecticut Parks and Recreation Commission, December 14th. Calling the meeting to order. Before we get going, I would like to introduce and welcome Cassie Scholl, who's sitting in the audience. Kathy, you joined us by way. Cassie, I'm sorry. You started what, June, I want to say? June, July?
Yes, June.
Yes. So you've already
6 months.
gotten settled, but haven't been to a commission meeting yet. So Cassie took the position previously held by Jamie Gore.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah, she said
Yes.
Jamie.
Recreation
Without the dog.
supervisor.
And so she'll be participating in some of the discussion around, fee schedules and such tonight, but we wanted to make sure that we introduced her so you weren't sort of like, who's that talking?
No,
Why is
I
she
just
talking?
wanted to say, thank you for having me here. Previously with the City of Milford Recreation and Economic Departments, so I've got a lot of great ideas and new things that I'm really looking forward to doing here in Darien. So I'm looking forward to getting to know a little bit more about everything you guys do and how I can help our parks and everything here in town.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Great,
She's
thank
gotten
you.
through a successful fireworks event with me and the staff, and now we just rounded out the old-fashioned holiday on the weekend, this past weekend, which Chris was there.
It was amazing. It was what a terrific event. Would you say 600 people?
It's hard to gauge.
It
I
is.
didn't stop.
It did not stop. It just kept going, and I showed up midway through, and my gosh, what a fantastic event. So
Yeah, so.
Kudos.
Cassie
Kudos.
Did a great job. And
Yes.
so we had a meeting yesterday just to kind of go over the positives and then some of the things we think we could do better. And, so we had a lot of good constructive ideas from the staff because we were all there. Our whole staff was there working, which is awesome. So, nice job.
Good team effort.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
So,
Great.
thanks, Cassie.
Thank you. Okay, first order of business is approval of the minutes from our last meeting, which was November 16th. Hopefully you all had a chance to review them. Does anybody have any proposed corrections or clarifications or amendments to the minutes?
You do.
This may be a first. I don't have any.
Wow.
I was like,
Oh
Wow.
my God.
Tamara.
I was like, Tamara has set a
Tamara.
new bar, but unless
For 11 pages.
I
too.
honestly, I thought she did a super job capturing the, the discussion on pear tree with the technical aspects, but boiling it down in a way that it was sort of readable and understandable. So I honestly didn't have a thing. I was like, how did that happen? I know. I knew you would all fall off the chairs. So, given that, yes, and please thank her for her very excellent effort. Anybody make a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Susan? Second. Mary Louise, all in favor? Okay, cool. That is done. Before we get into the agenda, I want to mention we had a bit of version control on the agenda, so I should have caught it, but I didn't. At one point, the Weed Beach Dog Program vote was on, and somehow we had to repost the agenda to add something, and I think a wrong version got corrected. So we'll need to go into new business at the end, so just keep that in mind when we're thinking about the timing of the evening. I did send out the language and everything to everybody in advance, so hopefully we can do that quickly, but just be aware that we'll need to go into new business. Otherwise, if we have to wait till January, the program would lapse as we voted at the end of this month, and it would be a 3-week gap. So I just wanted to mention that. Do we have any public comment? I think there was going to be a comment made by a member of your committee, Cheryl.
Did anybody else send it to you?
She did, and I had asked that somebody read it.
Patty's coming, she's gonna read it.
Oh,
Okay,
I'm not sure why she's not here yet, but she did say she was coming, so.
okay. Then I guess we'll circle back later. Okay, so let's go into the fee schedule. Now, what we'll be doing this evening is discussing the fee schedule, and then it'll kind of sit out there for a month to percolate in the community, et cetera, and then we'll vote on it next month. Okay. So Cassie, are you leading this discussion, or Pam, are you
No.
leading the discussion, or?
Yeah, I'll leave.
You're leading it, okay.
So as you can see, I did just give you an updated fee schedule where I had added in pickleball, $20 for 2-hour reservation, and that's new. We have been discussing this within our office for quite some time now in terms of being able to reserve as we do at the paddle hut. The only difference here, and the reason why we've waited, is because we don't have staff to oversee the lessons, or not even the lessons, just the pickleball courts like we do at the paddle courts. We have staff there 24/7 to be able to monitor it, take care of any issues, take money, resolve conflicts, and we don't have that with pickleball. However, we do reservations for tennis, and we don't have any problems with tennis. So they resolve their own conflicts, they show up with their permit, and we don't have any problems there. So, and I also have on here the beach permit military resident. This is a phone call. We've gotten a couple over the years. This particular gentleman did call to ask us to request if we can get, a free sticker for military, so I did add that in there.
Is this active military or anybody who's ever served in the military?
That's a good question. That's a great question.
I would suggest it probably should be active.
That's what usually the standard is for most discounted programs. They have to show they have to have an ID that's active. I know.
I think that seems fair.
And also, if anybody's more, retired, you would hope that they would be considered a senior and they would get a free one as a senior also. So hopefully, anybody that is at the right age would get it there, so. I don't know. It would be interesting to find out how many people we're expecting to get the active military one. How many, do we have an idea of how many active military are in Darien?
Oh,
Cheryl
Susan,
can't hear you.
Cheryl can hear you.
Oh, how many active military are in Darien?
I don't,
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
We're trying to figure out how many active military personnel there are in Darien.
I don't.
Couldn't you just do it for all military veterans too?
Well, we're saying that for military veterans, they'd probably be covered under the senior piece in Darien.
Unless they were like disabled.
They might or might not.
But I
would-
think we have disabled people here.
Oh.
We have senior, disabled, and low income are part of that existing.
Oh, okay.
So they would be under disabled there.
Gotcha.
So even if they were veteran, they would get caught there,
Mhm.
if they were disabled. So it's really what kind of military resident we're looking at. Is it active or is it someone that's ever served, So that's two different things. So I think getting clarification on what we're thinking would be helpful.
Or how many there are.
Yeah.
I don't know how we would ever find that out.
Right, they don't, unless the town
Yeah.
keep track of that, or?
Why wouldn't, no.
Yeah. Town camp, I don't know, I think if you have a VA card, it seems like that's a pretty good way to know whether or not you're allowed in or not, no?
What do you mean by a VA card? I mean, you would have either you would have an active duty card or a reservist's card.
Okay, so I'm saying that
But
if
someone
you're,
who's no longer in the military and has been out for 10 or 15 years could be 45 years old.
sure, and in this town, I don't believe that we have, to me, it doesn't seem like there's gonna be an overabundance.
I just don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah,
You know what, this reminded me of something real quick, is just the whole idea of college. Like, people have college IDs and they expire at a certain time, and they try to get, I know I used to work in the service industry where we did college discounts, and they were said they had to be current college students. So people would come up with their IDs from, like, honestly, 10 years before, and we'd be like, are you really still a college student? And question it, and, I guess the benefits are in place because of certain things, like you served, or if you're a college student and you don't have the financial means you need a discount. And my question then becomes, like, for this, are we trying to honor people that are currently serving, or are we, people that have ever served?
And thanking them for their service.
And if that's the case, then as a commission, we have to make that distinction, though. So, but I know that from that same position, it had to be an active military ID to get the military discount. And they verify it. There's all these situations now, they verify college ID, qualifications, they do it for military to get the discount online, to purchase things, to get the discount. So it's just something to think about. I'm not saying that's what we need to go to, but that exists now, currently. So,
Pam, how difficult would it be for your team to verify if somebody wanted to say they were a veteran and they
Well,
had
they
access?
have to provide a card, right?
Agreed,
So,
yeah, but they could show up and do it.
Yes.
Okay.
They would have to show up and do it, right?
It can't be that much of a problem, correct?
I don't think so.
I don't think it's the verification,
No.
the issue is just, we don't know what the populations are and how wide a net we want to cast.
Okay, or we are recognizing the service of these individuals, correct?
Yeah, I think that's what I think that's what you just said, whether it's a thank you or whether, we just need to get our arms around the universe. I think we all want to honor our vets and thank them. We just need to understand it a little bit different, and it seems that we've got time to do that, because this isn't,
Yeah.
we don't have to vote on this tonight. I'm supportive of our vets, and so let's say thank you, but let's understand the universe.
Let's find out what the verification is, like if it's a current military ID, that's obviously works, but if you're a veteran, do you get a veteran's card? Like, just to confirm, I'm not sure about that, not being in that space. Do they get a card that actually says you're a veteran? or-
There is, yeah, absolutely.
The Veteran Affairs.
Yeah.
You
I've
do a
worked
veteran,
through-
so that's,
yeah.
Yeah.
so, I mean, I think if there's proof that they've served, there's proof.
Yeah.
I think there's there's a, name on it, photo if possible, things like that,
So are we heading in whether or not they're current or not?
Like, people that have
I-
served, current military, we could write that on the paperwork, saying current military and veterans, and that would cover both,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
we can always, I guess, it's difficult to understand the universe, it sounds like, without actually trying it for a year, because it sounds like there's no other way, and the town is currently tracking that.
And it's only one, like, honestly, like, if you need more than, if there's, family, they're probably gonna need a second one, so they're gonna, in theory, buy another one.
Right,
if
so
they
it's
need
the
it.
the vehicle,
just the
the
one
second one is
permit.
the
Yes,
fifty,
it's the
just
first one,
one.
so you're only giving one per,
Yep,
so.
I like it, I agree.
I mean, I just know at my company, they didn't necessarily know, and they asked people to self-identify if they were
Mhm.
veterans, because there wasn't necessarily a way of knowing.
Right, but when they self-identify, you do ask for the card, right?
Well, in
So
that
there
case,
is
they
a
didn't, it was
verification.
just because they wanted a record, but.
A lot of times there's like stuff written in that says, you're self-identifying, but you're saying you're this, and if you're not, we reserve the right to remove it or take it away from you because you're saying this falsely. But in theory, Pam's office would ask for the military ID or the vet card
Mhm.
that you say that a lot of veterans have. So
Mhm.
if we do it that way, we're being fair, and there's a standard that the public can use to come in to get that benefit. So I'd be okay with that, if there's a way to verify it, definitely.
Okay.
If they're not covered under senior, disabled, and whatever up here, so.
If we're done with this topic, can I go back to the pickleball reservation?
Yep.
I don't want to.
Sure.
So that must have been met with applause, that you're taking reservations, because I know there's been a lot of brouhaha. Has it been announced?
Let's let
No.
Cassie can come up to the podium and just, 'cause
Okay,
she's the
and
one
talk.
working on the pickleball
Okay,
program. And
thanks, Cassie.
Yeah, so I started in June, and first things first were fireworks and figure out pickleball. And if you've ever been down to the pickleball courts, you know that because there's only 4 in the town and they're a beautiful cherry lawn, they tend to get very, very, very congested. At most you can fit 20 people on the courts, or 16.
16.
With a couple rotating in individuals if you want to switch your partner here or there. But we would get upwards of 30 people at the courts at a time waiting. During open play, we'd have 22 people rotating. We have a set of rules that we've kind of had, but it's all kind of been on a, what's the word I'm looking for? On a trust basis. You put out the rules and you hope that people will follow them, and some people do and some people don't, and then it has made it really uncomfortable. I think for people in the community, we have a lot of residents who come from, or non-residents who come from out of town and even out of state, because there are a lot of other towns who are starting to do pickleball fees, or just there's not enough pickleball in the state all over. So we are looking to introduce a reservation system, a 2-hour block, because on average, an hour and a half is kind of what our pickleballers have generally liked to play for a couple of games. And then hopefully the idea is that, our advanced pickleballers and our our beginner pickleballers and pickleball families will even be able to play because, as I feel, even the current, I haven't seen a single family down on the pickleball courts because they're so full of our advanced or intermediate players. So I think it could open up a really good opportunity for a whole new demographic in Darien.
So you'd have to have an account, like, you know how you, when you register for a class, you'd have to have one of those codes to get into the Parks and Rec system?
To reservation,
Yeah.
you can reserve through our paddle right now too.
Yep,
on
so
our
it
software.
would run the same software and everything the way our paddle reservations go, and I would be hoping that we could maybe do reservations for residents only, and then we would have open play times. We'd have our lessons blocked out, and then open play would be a little bit of time for where non-residents could come in and play, so that we're not completely shutting out other groups.
So would this really be for what you consider peak periods, which I would think would be weekends, and then in the summertime, certainly, you know, maybe 4:30 or 5 till sundown or something? Because that's when it seems to be super crowded.
Sure. So I kind of based the scheduling off of what this past half a season was since I started. Kind of came in and created a new schedule just to fill some of the voids based on all the feedback that I'd heard. So it would really be some of those peak times, early mornings, a little bit later in the afternoon, and then some on the weekends. Overall, I kind of calculated out for 2-hour increments and periods it would be 122 reservations per week that we could fit in based on the current kind of and proposed pickleball clinics, plus having some open play.
Right, so it looked like it worked. The whole schedule looked really very well organized, and you could see the slots for open, and then the slots for lessons, and then for reservations, and yeah, it looks pretty good.
The
And-
courts are not lit, right?
No.
The courts are not
So
lit.
your times that you're doing reservations with, like, consider them? Like, you know, I wouldn't want it to say, oh, 7 p.m., like now, it would be dark.
So I know currently, yeah, it's kind of a dawn till dusk is sort of how the courts have been. So we would take that into consideration based on daylight savings time. I think we would be looking towards April through October to kind of keep in those more sunny times.
And there's quite a bit of,
There's a lot going on over there in the winter.
there's quite a bit of revenue that can be
Yeah.
brought in too with this reservation system, which is
Yeah, it's nice if we can illustrate the demand to the town by charging and that people are willing to pay. I think maybe we could look to build more courts maybe
Yeah.
in the future and show the town that, you know, it's also a revenue generating activity. So that might be a positive
Yeah,
too.
she's done some numbers crunching on that, and it looks like that even just with the system that she has now, that it could be approximately 2,000 per week that comes in.
How did you, what was the thought process behind the $20?
Well, the thought process was, at first I kind of looked at our additional fees that we had. I saw that paddle is currently $20 or $25 per hour. Because we don't yet have a fee in place, I thought that $10 would be a good place to sort of start because it's not too much and it's not too little. And then for an average group of 4, you know, you split that, it's $5 a person. Kind of. So I'm not necessarily married to that if you want a higher fee, but I thought, you know, start out slow, see how it goes, and then kind of go from there.
Okay, so you're saying $10 per hour.
$10 per hour.
Okay,
so
and that's
20
why you said 20 for
Sure,
the
sorry.
2 hour.
So
For 2
yeah,
hours.
so $20
For 2
what I
hours.
was hoping for a 2-hour block, just based on what I've heard from a lot of pickleball community about, they generally like to spend an hour and a half on the court per session. So then they would have a little flex time before and after to kind of transition on and off the courts. And if we wanted, we could even trial, you know, an hour on the weekends and separate it a little bit as well.
Yeah, 2 hours feels a little long to me, just, you know.
But I agree with her about the transitioning. You're getting there, you're meeting people, right? You're getting on the court, and then after we're finished, you're getting off the court. I don't know.
Your friend's 15 minutes
That
late.
15 minutes in the beginning, 15 minutes in the
Well.
end.
It's kind of their problem, but I don't know.
Right, but
It just, and that- to me, it limits how many different
It's
groups.
true.
Like, we would go over and we generally play for an hour and 15 minutes max. So I'm just saying, but if I knew we had to be off in an hour, we'd be off in an hour, but 2 hours, like, to me, feels a little long, especially in the summer and stuff when it's
Right, so you can
Yeah.
probably
But
adjust that.
Yeah, nothing set in stone.
I could see an hour and a half.
Open to
maybe.
kind of, yeah,
it
the only
would
reason I
open
wanted
up
to
It would
stay
open
away
more,
from
I would say it
maybe-
would open
yeah.
up more blocks.
Yeah.
Cumulative, like 2-hour blocks is not gonna provide a ton of blocks.
How are you handling the lessons and the fees associated with that time?
In regard to what we charge for lessons,
No, how do you charge for the court? What is I mean, if we could be making $20 for people to play, what are we making when somebody is giving a lesson?
That's a vendor contractor fee. That's all separate.
Okay, so, and he gets the entire court and then just pays us a fee?
Right.
Or 4 courts?
Or 2
Whatever,
courts.
whatever courts are.
typically there's 2 courts during the lesson. So anytime a lesson is running, there's court 1 and 2 are the lessons, and then 3 and 4 have generally been open play. So I'd be looking to keep that model where it's only 2 courts for lessons, and then 2 courts would be able to have a reservation each during, generally it's about 3 hours total, Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the pickleball lessons. So I'm looking at that and kind of seeing that you'd be able to do additional reservations at that time. And I know that's always been a little bit of a tricky time as well out on the courts.
It's also growing the sport, where you get people kind of into it and learning about pickleball. It's gonna just increase demand.
No, it's
So,
great.
like,
I'm thrilled about this reservation, since I've gotten calls, I've had meetings, I mean, people are crazy for getting reservations for this.
I also think it's,
Oh, here's Patty,
you
she's
know,
gonna be happy about the
it's-
reservations for the pickleball courts.
It's,
Thank you.
I think it's kind of greener too, because, because we only have them one place, for instance, when we've gone over, I mean, you're driving all the way over there,
Yeah, that's
and then you don't even know if you're gonna get to play or not, so.
No,
you
it's a
know,
great idea.
So I think it just makes,
Have we
Makes sense.
considered the tennis courts where we have pickleball lines there too, or just strictly the 4 courts?
So I've just looked at the 4 courts based on our current reservations because I don't want to set anything in stone until we know exactly what we'd like to do, whether temporary or permanent lines for pickleball down below.
that could be overflow.
Kind of just, I mean, really, I'd like to kind of see how it goes, and then if we like what we see, if things are running smoothly, look at additional improvements moving forward. But it'd just be some discussions on how you balance pickleball reservations versus the tennis reservations on the brand new tennis courts.
I think Lori's idea about keeping it 1.5 hours is a good one. The only thing I do have a concern about is just access for maybe people that might say, oh, if they don't have access to, reservations online, to just make sure families that may not have access to a computer or don't know or want to just play with their kids and might not have the financial resources. I just want to make sure we figure out how to make sure they're included in this process. I know you had mentioned open times, but if there's a way to make sure that we make it accessible to everybody, not just people that can pay.
Allow someone to call in to
I don't know, I
get
think
registered?
we should considering it just to make it accessible.
How is that
financially.
different than paddle though?
I think this sport, paddle's a little different. I feel like pickleball, like we just started doing it. We do it at my own house. We put up a net and we play around. And I just think that it doesn't require that much equipment and, has those 2 paddles. I just want to make sure that,
The way we market though, through our database, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it captures a
Yeah.
huge
right.
part of the population who all have that opportunity.
I just feel like, I know that when we first moved here, it was great. We'd go to the tennis courts. We wouldn't make reservations. We'd just hit the ball back and forth. It was empty. It was cool. We just kind of had fun. And I just don't want it to turn in, you always have to make a reservation to do something. And not only do you have to make a reservation, you have to pay. So, if it is maybe the tennis courts, if those are open that have the stripe, just make sure we kind of direct people there that, like people don't have to always do it this way and make it an accessible sport. I think that's part of.
And I think
Yeah.
that's part of the thought process a little
Yeah.
bit too that wasn't yet discussed was now that the pickleball courts the tennis courts are temporarily lined with pickleball, we want to kind of see what that usage is from families and other individuals down on the courts there, and assess that as well, because I do the same thing in Milford with my
Yeah.
family. We just show up at the tennis courts when they're empty, we play a little, and then we leave. So for families and things, yeah, we can definitely look at and explore those.
Or fun days, maybe we could do fun days for families. I'm just putting a couple of things
Yeah,
out
no,
there.
that's something I definitely have been looking at as well, just how we can get, additional groups beyond the core group of pickleball players that are currently out there, expand it a little bit for them as well.
Anyway, great, but I do like that 1.5 hour. I agree.
It'll open
I
up
can
some more
check the
time
numbers for
slots,
that.
too. Yeah.
So would you
Thanks for
change
your
that
research,
pricing
Kathy.
Yeah,
to
no problem.
$15 for 1.5 hours, or would you keep it, like, what would you do?
I don't know yet.
Yeah, we'll have to
I
figure
think
that
it
out.
would
It's
just
harder
be
to
a.
split $15 by 4 people.
This is true. Good point.
I think if we were if we were to move to an hour and a half, that puts us closer to, I think, the paddle reservations and how they're handled. So I think for the making sense to have 4 people, $20 is,
Mhm.
So just
Maybe.
keep the
Still,
same
I'd
amount?
Yeah.
keep it.
keep the same amount,
Yeah.
but just
Yes.
make
Why
It makes
complicate it?
sense.
offer a couple
20
It's
more
easy to
slots.
demo.
Yeah.
Okay.
You good with Cass?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, so no other changes, we're looking at holding everything.
Everything else is the same.
We're just changing it to 1.5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we're voting on it, so.
Did you have something?
Just on fee schedule when we have time.
Yes.
Only other thing, I know that we've discussed in the past, and I've heard from town employees, I've heard from, police officers, I've heard from multiple folks. I know we've discussed this, but I don't understand why town employees still cannot have, I believe that free access to the beach and other, well, specifically beach, should be an added benefit.
Okay, well, Pam and I have discussed it again, and as we discussed in the past, and I think you have somebody working on it now, first and foremost, it will take a change to our park rules, but to do that, we really need to have the information in terms of the entire population that we're talking about. So Pam now has somebody, I think, who is working on securing that information.
Trying to get how many?
Right,
Board of Ed.
Right.
Library, town,
right.
and how many that would entail.
Okay?
Board of Ed, like the.
So I was gonna say, if we,
Teachers,
no.
all teachers.
well, if we move from
Okay.
just town budget, not Board of Ed budget, if we're just dealing with the town employees, right? So if I'm looking at
Right,
different.
but we're getting calls from everybody.
I'm sure you are.
Teachers, library, because they're all town employees.
Yeah,
So, we can do whatever the commission wants to do. You wanna narrow it down to town hall employees?
I think we should, you have asked for the information, correct?
Well, we're gonna get it, yeah.
Okay, so once we have the information and we know what kind of populations we're talking about, I think that's where we need to start. Or what are the potential, we're talking about 500 people, 1,000 people, we need to know the numbers, because we have argued to the state that parking at the beaches is a limited resource. I also checked with, Jeremy, just to, confirm, the timing of apartments coming online. Again, we have close to 400 apartments coming online, which is gonna put demands on beach parking as well. Some are now occupied, the first half of Federal Realty are now being rented, that's another 61 units. But over the next few years, again, we have a lot of apartments coming online. So I think, again, when we're arguing to the state about, limited parking resources and potential regulation, we have to be careful if we incrementally start opening. So I just want to understand the numbers, and then we have to change the rules. So I've asked Pam
If I can get those before the next meeting.
to get the information,
That's
and
when
then the
you'd be
next
voting
thing
on
is.
this anyway.
No, then the next step would be to do an update to our rules. We can't add,
Oh, right, right,
we
right.
can't add a fee to allow someone into the beach who's not allowed in the beach by our parks rules.
Mhm.
So then we will have to draft updates to the rules. We would definitely want to have public comment period on it, because we do hear from people about the beaches being too crowded. So we just need to know the numbers and have the information.
gotcha. We have volunteer firefighters in post 53 that are already in there. I just.
Right, because they're volunteers.
I understand.
Again,
to
just like
say.
the military, that's, a thank you.
Yeah, and I just think for.
And we
same
wouldn't
thing for-
offer, let me tell you, we wouldn't. I certainly would not support offering them for free, if that's what you're suggesting. That would be a charge.
I would absolutely say that they should, town staff absolutely should be in for free, yes.
For free?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll have to discuss that when we get further down the road.
Fair enough.
Well, when we did have it, they weren't free.
I
They,
understand.
they were paid, they got a seasonal pass paid
understand.
for. Yeah,
Yeah.
just
I'm-
putting it
I'm-
out there.
I believe that the police should be just as welcome as any other, DOT or any other individual that's working through, so.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions or comments on the fee schedule?
No, but I look forward to that discussion.
Thanks, Amy.
Okay. Ready to move on from fees? Okay, Patty, we'd moved over public comment.
Right, I hadn't expected, Adele asked you to do this kind of towards the end of the day, so I had to rearrange stuff
Okay.
tonight. And then I thought I would read her thing prior to you reviewing the capital budget. If you prefer me to do it,
That's fine
Yeah.
too.
We're right here.
okay.
That's fine too. Anyway,
We're at the capital budget.
okay, we're on the capital budget.
Just saying.
I may have a hot day later. All right.
State
Patty
your name for the
Baum-
record.
State my name for the record. Patty Baumgartner. I'm the vice chair of the Darien Parks and Rec. First of all, I want to thank all of you all. You have done so much this year for the town of Darien. It's amazing how much has gotten done. Lori, congratulations on really
Thanks.
setting the tone with the care and maintenance program. Pam, all your hard work, but everybody, Susan leading to the working group committees, the playground, which we just voted on Monday at the RTM, so that's very exciting. We accepted the gift, so that's great. We're ready to go on that. Mary Louise with the invasives, and Cara, who's not here today, with the great work on the pear tree, and then also Susan on Weed Beach. So I just want to say thank you. Everybody does work on everything, so great job. I'm going to read this on behalf of Adele Coniff. At our meeting on 12/15, the RTM Parks and Rec Committee reviewed the Commission's proposed 2023-2024 operating budget, capital improvements, and six-year plan. The discussion produced a few questions, but primarily focused on Pear Tree Beach. One of the members asked the question, are we balancing the community's needs and how are we serving the community at Pear Tree Beach? Another member said, we need to accomplish, we really need to try and accomplish both beach projects, both Weed Beach and Pear Tree Point. In a sense of the meeting vote, the committee expressed that Pear Tree Beach most urgently needs work, as shown on your parks assessment, and should be prioritized. We encourage the commission to move the project forward in your six-year plan and consider asking for the bid planning and some of the bathhouse renovation funding as a special appropriation. Thank you for your consideration of our concerns as you finalize your budget. Adele, this is from Adele Coniff, RTM chair of the RTM Parks and Recreation Committee Chair. And the reason they talked about moving forward, or we talked about moving forward, almost taking out the bid projects, the bid package, and doing an appropriation set of capital, is because then you can't even start the work if you need a bid package. That's not going to start until July, at least after July 1st. So we thought that that would be an appropriate thing for you to seriously consider. As somebody who's working on both the Pear Tree and the Weed Beach project, I've watched Weed Beach come down in price. And if we can get funding from one of our foundations, I think it could be a great time to do it. Monica spoke about it briefly at the RTM meeting on Monday. And then Pear Tree Point, you saw, a number of us were on the Pear Tree Point Beach working group with the assessments and with the survey, and I think you saw so much of it we needed a whole lot of money in the building per se. What we needed was really maintenance in the fit and fixtures of the bathrooms, some landscaping, some Adirondack chairs. We got to get Cheryl some sand, the core area in there. So thank you for adding in. I know that our committee really pressed for you guys to add in some money on the $50,000, which you've done in the capital for the bathhouse renovation, furniture, and landscape. And we would ask for you to consider moving up the $170 for the renovation of the building and the $50,000 for the repurposing of the concession. So that's it. Thank you so much. Appreciate all your
Thanks,
hard work.
Patty.
Thank you.
So Pam handed out an updated version. Does everybody have it? Okay, you want to Pam?
Yes. So I did hand out a new version that has kind of an orange highlight there, and there are 3 new rows. One is repaving the Nature Center driveway, and basically just put in there getting an estimate. I have FGB did come out last week, met me there. And just to give you a little feedback and history on this, prior to 2020, the Nature Center did reach out to me to come down. Jim Flynn and I had met there to go over the circular drive and the driveway and their parking lot. According to their lease agreement, the town would be maintaining the drive. There is a gray area when it comes to their parking lot and the driveway. So we need to really figure out that. I believe that it's the Nature Center's responsibility for the parking lot, and it's our responsibility for the circular drive and the driveway in. So anyhow, I did have FGB down there. They're going to give us a complete estimate on all the work with it all broken down, in the case that it's not our responsibility to do everything. So we'll be able to see the breakdown. Their bluestone patio in the entrance, that's just a slippery slope in the wintertime. But that is strictly their responsibility. So, but when you're doing this, talking with a vendor about doing all this work, it makes sense to do it all at once, because it's literally sinking. It's about 30 to 40 years old. And the water seems to pile toward the entrance, and then it freezes. So it's a pretty
The driveway's 30 to 40 years old?
30 years old or so driveway of the Nature Center. Been around quite a long time now.
79, so 43.
There you go.
No. This is a new nature center.
Oh,
So that, yeah, maybe I would say it's
30.
25, 23, 25.
The actual Nature
The
Center.
new nature center, yeah.
That structure there.
Yep.
For whatever reason, I thought that was at least 30 years old, but anyhow, I could check that. But regardless, there's work that needs to be done there. We are getting an estimate on it, and I did add that in there as another consideration.
What score or priority did you give it?
Sorry?
What would you give it in terms of score priority?
I would say a 1. It gets icy. It needs to be repaved. It can be a hazard.
Because you put
They're
50,000
concerned.
on the column for the 6-year capital plan. Is that a guesstimate, a good guesstimate, or is it, you think it's going to be?
Yeah, that's not supposed to be there. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Let's just get rid of that 50,000 on that. So it might have been a guesstimate at one point until I got FGB down there, and then I decided to just put getting estimate.
But how do we vote on this if we have no idea what we're voting on?
I could not even guess how much work that would be until the figure comes in. He's expecting to get that figure to me Friday, but I know that puts you in a little bit of a difficult.
Yeah, especially given that it's a high priority.
Mhm.
That's the reason.
Mhm.
And that's why I was looking at your 50,000, thinking if that's a good ballpark or not, then we have something to at least think about.
I threw that in there. I do not know. I
Would
do
we
not
be
know.
able to vote on that estimate?
I don't think so. I mean, what if it came back and it was $2 million or something, and then,
Could
you know,
we-
Yeah, no,
just-
but if we said, look, if it comes back at this price, we're okay, but anything, just so that we can get the vote done?
Oh, you mean setting an estimate number?
Yeah, and then anything outside of that, because I don't want to, if it's a priority for Pam and the Nature Center, I don't want to hold them up.
We could stick with that 50. I mean, the circular drive, it may take care of one part. If there's 4 different, there's the bluestone, there's the circle, there's the driveway, and there's the parking lot, right? They're gonna break it into 4 sections. So maybe we just stick with that 50 and see what
At
we
least
can
for
get
now.
done for 50.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, Amy.
Does make sense.
Just put a placeholder on it, but a number that we're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Should I move on?
Sure.
Okay, and so the second newest one I put in was the renovate the cement patio. We've all, as a commission, walked McGuan Park at the concession area, and there is, the cement patio is lifting from the tree roots. It is definitely a issue around the Little League facility. So I did talk again to Jeff Lombardo. He did give me, they've been looking at this for the last 3 years. It just has never gotten to the commission. So I talked to him again today, saying how firm is that 250? And he feels that that's a good number, 250. So that's removing 5 of the trees and their roots and taking up.
Wow.
And taking up, and it really is a structural issue.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because of the way it was built back then. So they're finding all these issues now, and I have a lot of the, basically, phase 1, phase 2. The rebar, he said, once all this work is done, the building will be sound, everything around it will be sound for a very long time. But there's really a lot of issues all these years later with the foundation. And starting with this, with the trees and the lifting of the cement, but it goes a little bit further than that.
So it sounds like it's just not the patio, it's like the strength of the building
There is.
itself, that it's affecting that whole structure.
And it's all because of the trees?
Not all because, no, the cement patio is because of the trees. But
Is there
there's
anything
other
we can
issues.
do to keep the, I mean, there's not a lot of shade there, it's all, and those are mature trees. Is there
I
any-
don't know, I'm listening to the vendor that's just saying, this is how we remedy this. The patio is lifting from roots. I don't know how else they would manage that.
But the 250 is not just about the patio, it's about the
Yeah.
structure, fixing
Yeah.
the structure. There's something
Right.
going on with the
Yes.
concession stand, he's saying, and the
Yeah.
tree, that's just one consequence of it, is that the trees have started lifting the concrete, but the
No, I
rest of
understand,
it
I
is.
just don't want to get rid of the trees.
I understand that too, obviously,
Mhm.
but it sounds like this is a bigger problem than the trees. It sounds like the structure of that
Mhm.
concession stand is in question.
Rebar attached to existing foundation for extra support.
Yeah, but I think what she
We
said was that the patio area was the part that was affected by the trees and not so much the structure. Is that right?
I believe that's correct.
What-
Is
maybe-
a
You mean, are you
cement.
talking about the structure of the building or the structure of the patio?
Structure, she's talking about
Both.
both, but the only
It's a
one,
big
the only
project.
one that's
Oh, yes.
affected by the trees
They're
is
not-
the patio.
Can the patio be moved to a different area?
Here's basically what Joe wrote in writing. He said, safety issues due to sinking cement, the foundation of building is potential for cracking and out of square. Doors to the side building also are not latching and closing properly, and more to do with pressure on the building. They advise that lateral lean on foundation is very bad. Trees planted on deck have uprooted cement for major trip hazards and worsening the situation.
Should we get a second opinion?
You could.
But it sounds like it's gonna be a large project, no matter what.
It sounds like a large project, yeah.
And we definitely need to get another thought on it. Yeah.
But it also sounds dangerous, so that's concerning. So both of these ones that you've noted are sort of dangerous situations now. The paving the driveway is icy and not level and problems, and this one seems dangerous as well.
But we don't have a firm handle on it. This one
Right.
that you just brought up, that's new to us.
Right.
So it's hard to say, you know, which direction we should take, if we should do something that is.
Which one are you talking about?
The cement
Up on.
patio and the
Oh.
concession.
Well, I thought you said you did have what you thought was firm information.
Well, we just asked for more detail, right? And another vendor, maybe to
Another
look at, set of eyes to look at the
Another
space,
quote.
right? Another quote.
And options around keeping the trees.
Yeah,
Just to
that's
see
what
if
I
it's
mean by
possible.
second opinion,
Yeah.
whether it's a, just another quote.
and another assessment, frankly.
I mean, it's hot there. It gets hot. You're watching games, eating your fries, it gets hot. It's nice to, and also, of course, we love trees.
Well, the trees were more on the back side though, not on the field side, weren't they?
It's right in front
And
of concession.
concession.
It's right in front, that's why the patio's been lifting, you're right.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of trees there, actually. But I didn't really remember the trees. I'm not sure if they're the right trees, because some trees shouldn't be planted under patio.
I
like,
mentioned
they will-
5 trees.
They
Yeah.
will
I mean, we looked at it during the tour, but.
Yeah, it was pretty high up, you're right, there was a big gap.
Yeah.
But I don't really feel like, as a commission, we have a great idea about what's going on there. To make, I think we need to address it, but I don't know if having one opinion to decide what we're gonna do with the money
Mhm.
is the way we need to go right now. But at the same time, it's a safety issue, so we're all concerned.
Right, and I did get confirmation that Little League would also share in these expenses, which was also the field evaluation that you had asked about last meeting.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Mhm.
So the person that currently looked at the space, you mentioned a name, is he?
He's the one that does all of the work there, pretty much donated. He donates his time.
Oh, he's the contractor?
Mhm.
Like, did he build it originally? No.
No. No, but he's been doing the work for Little League for quite some time now on the building, so he knows the building very, very well.
That's nice. When was it built?
Well, I want to say 30, because I'm going to talk about the playground, it's 20. The playground's been there 20 years. So it's between 20 and 27 years or something like that.
It's at least 20 years old.
Yeah,
Yeah.
usually.
Just,
Okay.
backing up, dating on, I would have been spending a lot of time there.
Mhm.
It's at least 20 years ago.
So the pricing, is that, you said he's been doing a lot of work there, is it a realistic pricing that he's giving us, or is this like a discounted pricing? Because that seems like if he's doing the work.
No, no, he said that back 3-4 years ago, they were getting estimates of like 130, 140.
And now it's just increased because
yeah.
of materials.
So these are estimates he's gotten, this is not him doing the work.
No estimates, he's putting this together and giving us, he
Okay.
knows I needed to have a pretty solid number for capital.
Okay. So this is him going out and talking to professionals to get
Yes.
input.
Yes, and I asked him today, just before this meeting, is it realistic to say 200, or is 250 more realistic? He said, no, 250 is more realistic.
Wait, is he like a GC? Or is he a build, is he, like, so?
He's a contractor.
Right, so is he, when you say going out to professionals, are these like subcontractors that he would then hire?
I don't know that. I just know that he does work on the building, and he could give a sound estimate on this. I certainly
Yeah.
can call somebody else and get another estimate as well.
Mhm.
I don't know how quickly I can do that, but, maybe FGV? I don't know if they do work like that, but they came out very quickly at the Darien Nature Center. I was pleasantly surprised how quickly they came out.
I just think we need a better handle on the cost of what we're doing and what we're doing there. I
Mhm.
think, I'm not getting the sense, I see you have a lot of notes from him.
Yeah.
But just the scope of the type of work we
Mhm.
have to do.
Right, this is all very new to me, because I
Right.
thought we were going just for a patio. And knowing that the roots were, I didn't understand that the rest of it was affected, and that there's a lot of issues with
He should provide like a more detailed proposal.
Well,
First of all.
yeah. he
Well,
has-
am I understanding that he's a volunteer who helps the Little League maintain the property?
Mhm.
Okay, so he's
And here,
somebody who's donating.
Time.
basically even
His
gave,
time. Okay,
A drawing.
he's given a
Okay.
drawing.
so he's drawing on his professional expertise,
Yes.
but as a volunteer, but also talk to other professionals to hone in on
Right.
approximately what he thinks the issues are.
Mhm.
Okay, so this isn't him coming out and bidding
Yeah.
on it per se.
I see.
No,
Got it.
okay.
So this doesn't even include like any fees?
No, the 250 would include everything.
Oh, okay.
Yes, he's saying it's a healthy number, $250,000, to get the work necessary to make this building strong
Secure, yeah.
and secure and in a good spot. And then the third one is that Jim Coughlin reminded me that I did not put the paddle court, stripping of the paddle courts in the capital. So there's 5 courts. He's under the understanding that at this time, they've been painted so many times over the years that they need to be stripped because then they get uneven, they start chipping and get uneven. So this would be the one court, and then I put in 20,000 for the next 5 years to do each additional court for 20,000. And that would be just.
So that's a,
the
that's
first
a
of a
one
series of
priority? Is that a one priority?
Did I put that in?
No,
Put
you
that in
didn't.
there? Yeah, that just came in, so I would, you know, I would say it would be a 2.
How old are those courts? And when was the last time we did anything on them like that?
We have not stripped them.
So
He
how old
said,
is it?
since he's been here 20 years, they have not been stripped.
Oh, okay. So
So,
this is
yes.
basically deferred maintenance that we're just putting down now for the first time. Got it.
Are they dangerous? Or is it just?
No.
They just need to be refurbished? Okay.
Right, that is just, it's a good maintenance technique to strip them after years of coating.
Well, yeah, if it's important maintenance, then maybe we should consider it should be 1, not a 2.
Especially since we charge for them.
Mhm.
Like, we want to make sure that we're providing the best product and maintaining the product if we're charging people for something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we don't want to get into a situation where it's more expensive because we didn't maintain it.
Yep,
So maybe put that as a 1?
put that as a 1.
Okay.
Pam, what was the commercial freezer down at Weed?
Right, the commercial freezer is a 3-bay. It's been there for well over 20 years.
Inside the,
Inside the concession.
Okay.
And we bought that from Rob. He did not charge us for the freezer.
oh, nice, okay.
You know, because it's very old. And we have had, Nikki, our vendor, has been there for 2 summers, and she's had episodes where she's lost food
Okay,
because it stopped working, we had to have it refixed, and we've had some issues with it, so it's time.
gotcha.
Are we doing a takeaway for, sorry, going back to the McWing one, to get a quote, or is that something we can?
I can try
do an
to,
action-
I
as an
can try to
action?
get another quote from that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that just to have something to compare, but also maybe like an actual proposal that kind of breaks down, you know, how much each line item cost.
Right, he's broke it down into different phases on here. I mean, to the best of his knowledge, he's written it down here, but that doesn't mean we can't get another vendor to
Okay.
quote it. But timing wise,
Right.
we're,
It's a bad time to get quotes in general.
Well, no, it's just that
also-
we've got to vote on the budget.
Right.
We're, unfortunately, our backs are kind of against the wall.
I
in
also-
terms
Well,
of
how can
timing.
we
vote on something that is just not an actual quote, though? Or is this kind
of?
A lot of times, like, you have an idea.
You
so
have an
put it in-
idea.
So you kind of work with, that you have that, because it's.
You have to have funding.
chicken before
Yeah,
it's
you
egg, you
have
have to
to
have the
have-
funding to go out to,
Right.
like, approval. But I also feel like the name, now that you're still calling it a cement patio, and it's not that. I think it's really, you're really changing the structure. I mean, you're
Structural.
reinforcing there's structural integrity issues that
Mhm.
your vendor's calling for.
right, so the project name would be
'Cause
renovate
it's, like, I think
cement
if you went to
patio
the-
and,
If you went to the board of, any board, they'd say, you're paying $250 to renovate
Right.
a cement patio.
Right.
That they know is not the biggest patio
Mhm.
in Dare, I just think we have to be clearer about what
Mhm.
we're thinking we're gonna need to do as a commission.
Yeah, the trick is, we can't go out to bid until we know have money, so we get actual quotes, but you have to have your arms around enough so that we can go and say, okay, this is what we need, so that you don't come back and all the bids are higher, and you don't have enough money, but you don't want to ask for too much money, because then they're going to say, well, you've asked for too much money in total, and what's going to get cut, so it's sort of that balancing act to say what should cover the project without putting in too much, because they'll just say, well, let's just put in $1 million.
So for McGuinn, couldn't we, I mean, you have that absolute, the space underneath where they practice and whatnot, right? Whatever that retaining wall is right, pretty much in between where the commissary is and everything else, right? Isn't there a potential that if we don't mitigate this now, that we have way more stuff we're gonna have to deal with in
I
the
would
future.
imagine it's going to
Yes.
get worse.
Yes, that we
Right.
would then potentially have flooding or whatever else. So, I mean, it's something to look
Only
into.
being
and-
brought to our attention right now.
Yeah.
Apparently, they've been talking about it for
A long time,
Yeah.
right?
Okay,
quite a few years.
I mean, when we did the tour, you could clearly see those
agreed, but we
rocks.
didn't go
And-
underneath.
No, but I'm
Yeah.
saying, if those of us who have completely untrained eyes can look at it and say, well, you know, if you've watched much HGTV, you generally know if you can see something bad on top, there's
Yeah.
something even worse going on
Right.
underneath, so, you know, it's not surprising to think that there may be more structural issues than just what we visually saw in our tour.
But it's better
And-
mitigated now than
And
pay
to
for
your
it.
point, Lori, I mean, really, that's, and Susan, that's what we're here for. We get funding numbers so that we can eventually do that. Now, if we come back with a different vendor that comes in at 130,000, great, we don't use all that money. But according to this professional, he's saying you need 250,000.
Mhm. And I don't know if the trees can be saved.
And we don't know. if
That's the
it's gonna be-
other challenge.
Thank you.
Just being honest, I don't
Calling
know.
it out.
Yeah.
I don't
I don't
know.
know, but maybe there is an option if they get clever.
Hopefully, yeah.
Can I just ask, is it affecting the batting cages that are underneath the facility? So if the concession stand is right here, and we know where everything is dripping right over here, to the right of it, so you've got the bathrooms upstairs, and then underneath the bathrooms are batting cages. Do we know if that's being affected?
I need to go down there with this gentleman.
Okay.
And so he, basically, I've talked to him on the phone twice now. He's given me this write-up that he dropped in my office yesterday. So, I'm not certain. But as I read there, certain doors aren't latching now, and it's shifting.
The
So-
building, yeah.
Yeah, that's not great.
No.
But it sounds like it's important that we get a handle on it
It
quickly.
does sound important,
And that it
yes.
might have to be in this budget cycle, no matter what else is out there for
Mhm.
us.
Mhm. I agree.
Could you send his, I know you have it with you, and we don't have time to look at it, what he sent you, just so that we can get an idea of what he's talking about?
Sure, I can
Scan it
copy
in.
this, scan it, and send it to all of you.
Great,
Just so
thank
we
you.
get an idea.
So, I have a question. Do you usually get your ones and then not your twos, or do you sometimes get your twos as well? I'm just thinking about the pear tree letter that Patty read, and those are twos, and
Right, there's a matrix that helps you get that 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And on your Excel sheet that I sent you, on the bottom, there's the matrix. So you can see,
yeah, but how likely is it, though, that you will get these things? I guess is my question.
It's always a mix.
it
Like,
is a
yeah.
mix.
It depends on the amount.
Depends on
too.
the year.
It depends, especially when this goes to Kate, right? Commission's gonna do their best to vote in what they feel is the best things to do, right, with this. But then
Right.
Kate, depending on all the other projects, every other department is proposing, then they have to narrow it down. So yeah, I'm sure they'll look at the priority ones, which typically have some safety issues,
Sure.
right? But, if they're gonna look at this too, at the evaluation of 3 Little League fields and say 15, well, I think that's achievable, then they'll throw that one in there. But it's really difficult, it's difficult to tell, I couldn't tell
Okay,
you
all right.
how they're,
I know,
Going
I've
to
been on this
assess it.
commission for a number of years as well.
So
I
you
should
know.
probably know a little bit too, but I don't. I don't recall whether twos actually get addressed so much, and as Chris says, it's year to year, of course.
and I will
Budget.
say that Lori did bring to my attention that the bid package for the improvement project for Pear Tree should have been in the agreement, and I did confirm that. So in the original RFP that we hired Neil Hawk's firm to work on for us includes the bid package in that agreement. So, however, there's no more money, but the agreement states that. So we don't necessarily, we can take that out of this capital.
And where's the now
What do you
con-
mean?
Now you've confused me. I
Well-
was the one who asked the question.
Well, I guess you're right, leave it, because we need to ask for more money.
We need the
Yeah,
money, no,
right.
my question was that after our last meeting, Mike Scrow had sent a detailed email, sort of what he saw as next steps, and one was to go out to bid, to hire a firm to do the bid package. And he's saying, well, because it's over $10,000, you had to put it out to bid. But then I got thinking about it, and I said, gee, if my memory serves me correctly, that was part of the contract that we signed with Weston and Sampson and Neil Hawk. So I think that, I feel like, to me, that means they've already effectively been awarded the business now. I guess we're short on
Just gotta
money
pay.
because
Mm-hmm.
everything that it took to get here ended up costing more, I guess, than we originally thought.
Right, when we went after the COP.
So the
Right.
money should stay in this.
So the money should stay in,
Right.
but I don't know that we need to
Go to bid.
go to bid.
Right.
Which-
How nice.
Yes,
Right.
since they've done all the work.
Yeah.
So I guess just, the question I still have on the priority for Pear Tree, the number of respondents we had and the feedback we've received, I just, we can't bump those twos up to ones or no?
It's part of the matrix.
It's part of the
You have to look
matrix.
at the matrix and you'll understand why.
But is that weighted in, right? The fact that we had thousands of people respond back into, and specifically speak to bathhouse
Right,
renovations.
it wouldn't, that wouldn't affect.
understand.
It wouldn't affect the two.
No, I get that, but
Right.
I
We
feel
as a
like,
commission can say.
that's what I'm
I
saying.
think
yeah,
that's
so-
where the
choose, yeah, we
commission
want.
has.
Yeah, yeah, so.
That's why we vote for
There,
it.
there are going to
Yeah.
be a lot of steps in this process. The
Mhm.
first will be Kate, then there'll be the selectmen. And it's up to us to be the champions along the way, to show up at the meetings when the selectmen are talking about the budgets and make.
Give the
pub-
qualitative color.
Right, and make the public
Okay.
comment. So it's not just, we're gonna vote on this tonight and, we'll find out what we get in April. We have to be champions every step of the way. As I mentioned, my public comments, but, I've been talking to leadership at the Boat Club about the Pear Tree Project to, ask, to garner their public support. You talk to we all have to, I know you probably have 10 times more contacts in town than I do. If people think this is, the selectmen, the Board of Finance, the RTM.
Have to hear
although
about it.
They have to hear about it,
Mhm.
so yeah, we gotta, Pam has to fit in this little box, but that doesn't mean we can't be the champions of the project every step of the way, to say, the community has told us this is very important to them.
Gotcha.
And then
So-
I will then
so-
tell Kate and Monica that, right, so before it becomes solely Kate's budget, it's my responsibility to take whatever this commission wants
Mhm.
heavily to do, and I will then make sure Kate understands that.
So I think we should, appreciating your matrix, I think we should override that and elevate this to a 1. We've just heard from the public, and we, as a commission, have spent so much time on Pear Tree that I think we should just advance it to the best of our ability.
Yeah,
Can we do that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Can we
It's
just
just
change
hard-
it to 1s?
It's just part of what the Kate and the Board of Selectmen have put together for us to arrive at a 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you read that, you just kind of put it in a category and it goes, okay, I guess that's a 2
So
based
my
on-
guess
only
is that you
safety
can't,
issue.
because
So
they're
I-
trying to level set every department's requests again another, and that's why they want standard sets of definition, so that everybody's,
So
so they
I
can say what's
appreciate
really
that.
helpful,
I-
and so whatever, and I think if we sort of artificially call something if they're saying we need you to use these definitions,
Okay, so I'm
Maybe like
hearing
fire
2
trucks
things.
or ones
I'm
that
hearing the
people
matrix is super important. And
It's
that
just a-
it's
it's
a
a
requirement.
level,
It's
it's
a
a level
requirement.
setting situation, it's a
Right.
requirement. And then I also heard that we can, as a commission, determine what a priority is, and we can champion that priority. So I guess that's what I'm doing. I'd like to champion this priority and use that card or whatever it is to say, I'd like to elevate that to a 1. I just think we've spent so much time, we've heard so much from the community about
Yeah, it's worth
this
asking.
project.
Yeah, it's worth asking the question. I see that the ones that are on here sound like safety-based items.
Mhm.
And this isn't so much, but
Yeah,
it
I
is
can
an
see them saying
important
that this is
upgrade.
more, yeah, upgrades or
Upgrade.
like still
aesthetic or nice to have or something.
I think
I
we
mean,
run
the-
the risk if we have too many things on our list is that they can't do everything, so then they kind of artificially make the decision. So we need to make sure our list is like accurate and what we want to have. And if we think that something's gonna compete against Pear Tree, we might say, we're willing to give something up, or like move it till the next year. I'm just
Right.
putting it out there, because otherwise, they're gonna see a list, and they get to say, these are ones, these are twos. This works with what we're thinking for the town budget, and this doesn't. So we're just gonna take this out, because, you know, it's a 2, and it might not work with what our current budget situation is.
So to Amy's point though, if it's not already a 1, we can't remove a 1 to
But-
ask for a 2.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes what they've done in the past, just because I've been on the commission longer than I'd like to care to admit sometimes, is they do take some of the ones and they take a 2, or they shift around depending on what the financial situation of the town is.
Mhm.
And they have to balance that. Like what Lori was saying is that there are needs in all these different departments, so they gotta fit it in with the budget that we present. And if we have two, like, let's say everyone is funded and they're like, well, we're done, because these are safety issues, because now they know that they have to be addressed, but we could do maybe 1, 2. So what 2 will
So,
fit
but
in? And if
we're
we say as a
already-
commission.
We don't know what they're thinking, and
But-
so
but I'm
what
happy to
harm is
champion-
it to say, let's put it as a 1, because we don't even know the negotiating parameters around it.
But they're gonna know it's not, it's a fake 1 in a way. Do you understand? They're gonna know that. I mean, we're in a small town. Like, it's not like, it's not our 1.
But it's not a fake 1
It's
if
not
we-
a fake 1
if
if we
we've
think
had,
it's a-
pardon
yeah,
me,
go.
if we've had so many respondents to this.
I get it, but it's, their 1 is a health and safety issue, right? We just talked about that. And I think we'll admit.
So if we're talking bathhouses, I would still state that that could be a health and safety issue.
I'm okay, I'm okay, just so you know.
I'm not attacking you.
I
I'm
am,
sorry.
I am,
I'm
I am
sorry.
so
No,
in
yeah,
agreement.
I'm
I want to
sorry.
get
We're
Pear
just
Tree
getting
done so
passionate
bad.
about Pear
Yeah,
Tree.
yeah,
I
sorry.
mean, I
Like,
want to get
for-
it done, but I've also sat on the Board of Finance when you're literally culling through masses of
Of course,
requests.
of course.
and, you know,
But I agree, I want to get Pear Tree done too. I'm
Yeah.
in the same boat you guys are. I just want you to know,
Right,
but I'm
right.
just saying, I'm also a realist, and I think that there are a lot of priorities that are coming in front of our town government. And as commissioners, we could say, this is our number 1, 2, this is what we want to do. It's doable, it's not a ton of money, and we need to do something down there,
Yeah.
because we've been trying to do something for many years. And I'll go to the meetings, I'll fully support it, I'll write notes, whatever you need. But as a commission, we can't give it, like, it's already prefixed. Like, it's like a number that's there, but at the same time, I'm with you guys. Let's get something done in Pear Tree. And it's reasonable,
Okay.
and we get something, like, that can change that space and usable, so.
Okay,
remember,
so
we've got
now what I'm
different-
hearing is 1s are only for safety? Is that what it is?
Yeah, like-
And 2s are, you can't you can't elevate a 2 to a 1 unless it's a safety issue or emergency. Is that
You have the
right?
matrix in front of you. I mean,
I'm
that's
trying to
been,
get it.
that's been my experience. But if you look at it, it's true. Like, right now, all our 1s are issues that can
Yeah, I
involve
can see
safety.
that.
And that's kind of, to be honest with you, as a town with liability issues, we want to
Of
take care of all
course.
as many 1s, as humanly possible.
Of course.
The 2s are like, like, maybe some years we could hit a bunch, all the 2s. Maybe in some years we don't hit any of the 2s. I have to be, but as a commission, we could recommend a 2 be done this year and like put our, our support behind it and do our best. But at the end of the day, we're just a step towards the process, and we're not the end. We're just beginning,
So we just elevated the paddle court, and I asked if there was a safety issue with the paddle court, and it was determined there wasn't, but that we decided that it should be a 1 because of a maintenance issue. So that makes sense to me, and I think that should be a 1. There isn't, I guess you could argue that Pear Tree is a maintenance issue too. I don't know.
I think,
I'm just voicing it. I'm happy to champion and go to meetings and say, let's do this. I just think we should advance Pear Tree.
I think if that's what the commission decides tonight, we should, as a commission, say, that's what we want.
Maybe for the $50,000 portion, it is a maintenance issue, the bathhouse.
The bathhouse.
Is that the number, though, we're going with Pear Tree? I mean, I don't remember, was that the number we said that we could spend up to do? wasn't sure.
I believe that was like 160. I think Kara came back and said, I thought at one point it was like, the maximum was 190 over 3 years, and then she came back and I thought she said 160, but I had.
So now we're saying it's 50
Well,
Per year.
per year? I only see 50.
Well, if you flip it out, you gotta flip over.
Oh, I'm
Right.
So 50 was, the idea was for this year, things we would get done this year, which would be probably improve the interior
okay.
of the bathrooms.
mhm.
Maybe do some, landscaping or work around the patio or whatever. And then also ask, for, it'll take longer term to say, okay, then, you do the bathroom piece, and then you have the other building, which has the concession, the police room, the first aid room, and whatever, and that we're gonna need more professional guidance to say, okay, what could we do with this space? If there's no concession, is there a way we can open it up and make public seating area, whatever? That's gonna take a little bit more time. I mean,
So it's just
need
renovation of the
architectural support.
bathhouse then? And the first piece is what we're considering, the furniture and the landscape. Furniture, is that outdoor furniture?
Right, and that was never really, that number was pretty much just thrown out there.
Arbitrary.
From last, right, so we never got a quote from anybody in terms of the amount of work involved in the, so that could definitely come back at us and say, well, what exactly is this 50,000?
I'd also remove furniture and landscaping, right? If we have dollars, let's put them towards the existing structure, if that's what we're moving towards. I'm not stating that it doesn't need to have landscaping and furniture, but it does make it seem much more like a type 2 priority when we're talking about
But
landscape.
what is the $50,000 breaking into? Like, how did we get to that number, and what does that entail?
And happy to speak about that here, but the idea would be, if we're talking in terms of priority, it's not removing goldenrod, right? It's specifically talking
Oh,
about.
Cheryl and I will do that for free.
I know.
I think it's
But-
upgrading the bathrooms, right?
It is.
No, what is it?
Fix and finish.
Fixtures of the
To
bathrooms.
make it
It's the
equal
bathrooms.
to Weed Beach. Fix and finish to make it equal to Weed Beach. That was the feedback we got throughout the surveys.
Right. So it would be things like, I could talk about the
Stalls.
ladies' room, because I haven't spent a lot of time there. We did peek in the men's room, but just going to the ladies' room, the actual stalls.
Yeah.
They're old,
They're
they're
really
rickety,
bad.
they don't close well, the lots of, you replace those. The toilet paper holders are duct
Yeah.
taped to the wall.
Yeah. And so
Attractive new light fixtures, maybe
could-
you put some beadboard or other, saying like over half to make it look nicer. You repaint that god-awful ugly blue bench that I can't even stand. But just think, it was more things like that.
Yeah.
It was maybe a little landscaping, either whether it's pots or whatever around the building with annuals, some more patio furniture.
just
So
don't want-
it was sort of that immediate surrounding the bathhouse and making the bathrooms look.
Yeah, I think exterior structure, interior structure, 1 and 2, or 2 and 1, and then, landscaping and furniture would be 3rd and 4th after that. I just don't want submitting this to have it, when you look at it and you go, we're talking, furniture, to me, that doesn't seem like a number 1 for
Also, the
priority.
furniture, you have people donating
That is true.
benches and things. Maybe somebody will come
So-
forward for
so-
a memorial Adirondack grouping, I don't know.
But I don't want to not ask for the money for that.
So-
Cheryl, you wanted to say something, I'm sorry. Yes, yes,
Yes.
Kevin from 79 said we have to make sure people come over here.
Good evening, Cheryl Russell, RTM member for 30-some-odd years. I have listened to budgets that many times. And it isn't easy, and I don't think any of us want to chip away at a lot of things this year in our budgets, wherever we are in town. First, I want to ask you a question on this 20,000, because we had talked, and I had brought it up about the 20,000 for the bid package for Pear Tree. We had talked about, and I brought it up at our meeting also, about going for a special appropriation to the Board of Selectmen now, January, to move this project along and to get that money for the bid package and move it closer than next year. So where do we stand with that now? Because I got a little confused with that. We had the money, we paid Dan Biggs the money, Weston and Sampson, money that when I was on I'm still on the building committee as far as I know, that was all part of the fee package, right, Pam? So that 20,000 then doesn't exist?
What, the 20,000 here that we're asking for?
Yes, that you're asking for.
No, we basically spent all that money finalizing the COP for the last 2 years.
Okay, so then we do need 20,000 more. Okay,
Well, just to clarify the numbers, Dan, for Pear Tree, he had estimated about 25,000. I asked Pam to bump that up to 30 because when Dan gave me that number, is literally like he or I, we're on the Zoom, going through the timeline, what needs to happen, and I said, look, Dan, we're putting the budget together, I need to have some idea what I need to ask for. I said, could you give me sort of just order of magnitude? Because I'm like, I don't know, is it 10,000, it is 500, I mean, I don't know. And I said, you know, about what do you think the bid package would cost? And he kind of said, you know, and he looked at a couple things, and I said, you know, and I said, I'm not going to hold you to this. He said, probably around 25,000. So I thought to be safe, we should probably bump that up a bit so that we're not, you know, it comes back and it's, you know, once he has to run it through, whoever he's got to run it through is 27, and we don't have enough money. So I thought we should bump that up a bit. But that was sort of.
Just to clarify, you're talking about parking lot, boat,
Yes.
ramp, dredging.
Yes.
It's
Right.
separate
Yes.
from, let's maintain the building, the
Yes,
bathrooms,
yes,
and.
yes, those are broken out here on this budget.
Just clarify.
So the bid package is for the
parking lot,
big project.
right, parking lot, the dredging, and the boat ramp.
Correct.
Okay. So, since I'm the one that brought this to the committees, I'm going to speak about this tonight. As you all know, I'm extremely passionate about Pear Tree. I was raised on Pear Tree. My children were raised down there. My grandchildren were raised down there. We've had a boat at the boat clubs for eons. So I would like to move this project quickly. Therefore, I'm suggesting that you consider going out for $30,000 as a special appropriation to the Board of Selectmen, which would then hopefully give you your okay, and go to the Board of Finance. I will do whatever I have to do to shepherd this through with you. That way, you have the money right away. So that gives us, let's say, $30,000 in '23. February, March. We get the bid package together, you can go out to bid at the end of March, beginning of April. In '23. I would also ask that you move the $3 million into this year's budget also, into the 23-24 budget. Because with that gives you that you're ready to go. The bid package can come in, and you could be ready to go with the $3 million in '24. Otherwise, if you keep this in the 24-25 budget, you're moving it out, and then you have another year because nothing comes in until July. By the time everybody gets together and gets it moving and goes through the process, we're in 25-26. Our permit is for 5 years. 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. We can, as Dan Biggs said, ask for an extension on the permit. But we have to realize that we have a big project also coming down the pike, and that's Great Island. And if we don't move this project forward now, my personal feeling is it may be pushed and pushed again. We've been kicking this can down the road for I don't know how many years. And in my opinion, it's reached a dead end. And we can't kick it any further. So I really would like you to consider moving the $3 million over, making this a one priority, because you can explain it to the Board of Selectmen and explain it to the Board of Finance We have a 5-year permit. We don't have another 20 years to wait. We have 5. Now, we can go out for an extension, but we're going to need permits for Great Island. We're going to need permits for other things. And then where are we going to be? We've waited a long time to get Pear Tree done. We did the survey, we did everything that the commission asked us to do. We got huge feedback. I think it's only fair to the residents of this town that we move this project along. So that's where I'm coming from, and I hope that you all consider my concerns. Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl. Well, to jump ahead, I was going to mention this during my chairman's comments. Myself, Pam, I don't know if you're going to be there or not, but myself and
Monday night.
yeah,
I'm going to be there.
Pam, Mike Scrow, Randy Tankus, Dan Biggs, Craig Flaherty will be presenting to the Board of Selectmen the Pear Tree, the project, the go over the COP approval, kind of the presentation that we got last month will be effectively represented to the Board of Selectmen. So that will be our opportunity to take our, preliminary pulse on, what the level of support given, sort of the estimated price tag and whether this is a project that they feel is
when's that meeting?
Monday night. Are ready to move forward with. I assume so.
Yes.
Yep. And so I think that is our first really opportunity to get a sense of whether, they feel the sense of immediacy, certainly that Cheryl has just articulated. From a practical standpoint and the timeline of each step that has to go before you could get shovels in the ground, I got the impression from Dan and Mike and the others that it just wouldn't even be possible to be ready to put shovels in the ground this next fall, which would be October. So that would take us into the next
24.
budget year, 24, which is why we had it there. Because just practically speaking, unless we want to do it over the summer and close the beach for a year, but assuming we were going to do the project in an October, a sort of a mid-September, it's up to a 9-month project. The feeling was we cannot be ready with all the other steps that have to take place to put the shovels in the ground for September of 23, Cheryl. That's
Right, but if you move it out, if you go for the 3 million in the 24-25 budget, you don't get that money until July.
right. So that would be September of 24
4.
shovels would go in the ground. Again, unless people say, let's just close the beach for a year, but we didn't want to close a playground for an extra few months.
Right.
So it's almost as if you just back into the timeline and just say, practically speaking, and to get the money now and do the bid pack. You don't want to do a bid package too much. You're like, we're ready to go, because the bid package to say how much it's going to cost, well, you're not going to ask how much people are going to cost for a project you're going to do a year and a half from now. So from a timing standpoint, I don't know, but we'll definitely have a better sense after Monday night, hopefully, and the discussion that ensues from the presentation, and whether, the information that Dan and Craig are able to impart about, the importance of doing this remediation once and for all. We all heard it. I thought it was abundantly clear and compelling as to why the parking lot needs to be, improved for coastal resiliency. And again, that's another chance where we need to champion this in town. As I said, I'm talking to the boat club, you're talking to the coastal commission, everybody needs to be taught, other, people in town who, feel this is so important to build that support and say, this really needs to be done. We don't want to, we want to save this parcel and have it really, really usable. But from a timing standpoint, I think that's really where that slotting in came from, was just all the different steps that have to take place to, get a bid package going, go out to bid, sign contracts, it's just.
Right, I understand all that. I'm just trying to move this forwards before other projects come down.
Cheryl, I can only speak for myself, very much want to get this done. very, very
Oh,
much.
you could also go for $3 million as a special appropriation, because they may bond this too.
Yep.
I think
I
for
would
the,
say for purposes of this budget, I don't want to take it out under the assumption that, oh, well, we're going to see if we can get the money before the end of this year. I think we need to leave it there.
I was gonna suggest for that title, if we could make sure that it says a bid package for the parking lot improvement project and be specific about it, because I think when I've looked at this myself, I'm like, oh, is that for, like there's this building that's the bathhouse, which we're not
Right.
doing anything except renovating.
Right.
And I think making sure that people know that the bid package is for the site work for the 3 million.
Okay.
Just make
Yep.
sure that's linked together.
Yep.
Yep, I think that
So,
specificity is helpful.
And I think that when we, as a commission, talk about it, if we, by saying that we're keeping the bid package for the parking lot improvement and boat ramp project in the budget, it means that we're supporting the site work in theory. Because we wouldn't be going for a bid package if we didn't support it. So I think as a commission, we have to keep that in mind. That's what we're doing.
So I added that site work for parking lot.
It just makes it
and boat
clearer.
ramp. Sure.
Because
Yep.
I know when you're looking at it quickly
No,
and
that's a
I
good
agree.
point.
people that are seeing this
Yep.
stuff. Sorry. This makes me so emotional.
Other comments, discussion? I mean, we all really, I do believe everybody really wants to see this move forward and get it done. I think if I could wave a wand and get the money tomorrow.
So kind of back
I
to our conversation right before this, do we want to take out the word furniture / landscaping from the bathhouse line in order to advance it to a 1? I think that, I agree with Chris, that makes it more of a maintenance to keep up with health and safety.
Did you find your definitions?
Yeah.
I
if you-
did not. I
Was
tried
it
to
in one
find
of
it
the
on my
old
phone,
things?
but-
If you took out the furniture and the landscape, it would definitely sound more compelling at a minimum.
Mhm.
And, I mean, bathrooms are a
Because that is
health
the
issue.
priority,
But I think everybody also wanted the furniture and the landscaping.
I get that, but the reality is, are we gonna be able to do those things with 50,000?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's realistic. I mean,
And to be transparent, what is unsafe about the bathhouse right now? We're talking about repainting, putting in some stalls, putting in bathroom toilet paper holders.
But what about the door frame not closing?
No, that's McGuan.
Oh,
No, well, I mean, the stalls didn't necessarily.
It's just a privacy issue.
Oh, it's a health and safety
Yeah.
issue for my kids.
I don't think that's,
Those will be questions that will be asked. So
I mean,
just
there's-
wanna
right,
make sure
we should
that.
have,
yeah.
think
Right.
There's rust
Right.
on some of the metal, there's a tetanus issue there. Talking health and safety.
honestly, for $50,000,
just-
that might be an easy thing for them to
Yeah, I
give people in
said-
town. So I think the amount is pretty reasonable, even though it's a 2, I think that's a likely 2.
Yeah, I
Only
think-
because it's got popular support, and you were saying, I mean, you've said it a few
Right.
times, you're right, everybody wants to see the improvements
Right.
there.
Okay.
And once they see the progress, then the other pieces, which is redoing the concession and more renovation, it'll kind of start this momentum going, because we'll want to beautify the space. But the trick is getting that first $50,000 in.
Mhm.
And I think that as a commission, I fully support that.
Yeah, I'd rather see Pam be intellectually honest about the use of the coding, but for us to make the case, we got almost 2,000 survey respondents.
Mhm.
The message was abundantly clear, whatever, and I have no problem, and you all know me, and I will get up in front of the selectmen, and I will get up in front of the Board of Finance. It's just like last year when I was so irritated that the money to paint the paddle hut was cut, and I just got up there and I said, look at these pictures, and they said, come back next week and ask for the money.
Right.
So I think we can say,
Look at these pictures.
here's 600 pages of responses.
Mhm.
So Lori, to that point, should the board really just consider, say, the bathhouse maintenance incentive renovation sounds so fancy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're talking about like, you know, there was standing water in the stalls. There
Yep.
were, you
Yeah, I
know,
think those are.
right? That
Yeah.
was so gross
Issues,
in
for
my
sure.
room.
Why don't we call it repairs?
Yeah, improvements, yeah.
I mean, they're repairs.
Repairs,
I mean,
yeah.
Improvements and repairs.
Maintenance sounds like
To your point,
not
they
as
did
compelling.
say, Lori, come back,
Yep.
ask us.
Yep.
They even said, add in a line.
Yep.
Specifically, add in a line for maintenance, so.
Yep, okay. So let's call it bathhouse repairs and maintenance?
Yeah,
Thank you, Betty.
good branding.
Standing water is definitely.
But if someone were to ask
Yeah,
me
that's not
about the
bad.
50,000, like,
You don't think repairs and maintenance would be 50,000 for that space?
I don't know, right? So we threw that number out. I don't know what that
I think we work with
is
that
made up
number.
of.
We work with that number, and then when we get them approved, then we go back and see what we can do with that number. If it's more, if it's less than more, I mean, if it ends up being less, we can do more, like other parts of the building. But for now, I think that's a good number to have, to redo that bathhouse. I mean, it's not a six-figure number, it's a five-figure number. And, you know, it'll improve the look and the feel of the space dramatically in the first 1 year.
Yeah, and 50, I mean, if there's standing water, there's a plumbing issue, so, you know, that'll start to eat up the budget pretty quickly.
I knew at one point there was an electrical issue, so, in that space,
Right.
I want to check that.
Well, from what I've been told from the person that works on staff here, like for instance, even with the small water fountain, do not get anything different because they don't want to mess with the electrical or the plumbing because it will be going down a rat's hole. Because it is old, and if they have to fix anything, they have to go through cement. So it's a lot of work if you have to start fixing the plumbing and the electrical work of an old building.
But the reality is that we don't see a foreseeable future with a different building at this point. And we need to fix that, I think, personally, like, to make sure that the basic plumbing and, I mean, that's the meat of the operation, that we have plumbing and electricity there. So, I don't know, maybe the 50,000 isn't as outlandish as we think to fix something like that. So
And
that's
it's a
just something-
start anyway.
Yes, it's a start in the right direction. It might not fix everything, but we need to have someone look at that building thoroughly to make sure that it's usable, you know, and get the estimates for that.
Well, so far, and to my knowledge, there's no plumbing issues right now
Well-
or electrical issues. Everything's working. If it weren't working, our crew would be fixing it.
Well, there's this, Cheryl, you pointed out to us on the tour, there's the standing water in the
It was-
men's shower.
It
Is that
was,
a drainage issue?
I'm sure that
maybe?
can fix.
that was
yeah,
sand, there was sand in it,
Yeah,
for
it's probably
sure.
just drainage.
Well, anyway, either way, I think 50,000 is a good number to start and see what we can do for the space. And at a minimum, it will make users, you know, happy that we're moving forward to make some improvements in a space that they use and they love, so I'm okay with that.
Well said. Good, great.
So we have a lot of things on this list. Some with ones and twos, and some with numbers that we're not 100% sure about. Do we have to vote on it tonight, Lori?
I think we do, don't we, Pam?
So, because you're just going to pass it?
And she's
to
got to
20?
say,
I have a-
she's
I-
already passed the deadline.
Yeah, and I have a capital and budget workshop meeting with Kate and Monica already scheduled for January 9th, I believe.
So before our next meeting.
Yep.
I think we need to figure out that the McGuan concession stand / structural issue, because that's a big number. And it's the
Also,
number one.
the lawn mower, the large mower for 90 is big too.
That's replacing a
That's-
22-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, 22 years doesn't seem that old anymore.
Talk to Sandy about
I
that.
I mean, I think we've done our homework, we do our parks assessments, we've gone, we've looked. the two big projects, we've talked about them till the cows come home. We're committed as a commission to those projects. Things like, the McGuan, we didn't really see that coming,
No.
unfortunately. But, here we are, and
We don't have a priority number for the bid package for the Weed Beach Meadow and Trail. Yet we have number 2s on the projects themselves.
Isn't Weed Beach special?
In what way?
I thought that we were supposed to come back with,
Is that a special thing we're asking for?
yeah.
The bid package? Lori?
I'm not sure what you mean by special.
Pardon me, I thought that the Weed Beach, last year when we spoke about and made the request for Weed Beach, the selectmen asked us to come back with a specific proposal for it.
They did, but given how much time's transpired and we're already into the budget season, I think if we had had the information 6 months ago, we might have come back mid-year. But
Okay.
right now, we're
So
Basically, the
hence the
budget.
reason for lack of priority would be that it was, I thought it was supposed to be piecemeal, so, excuse me.
No, I'm just saying we need to have something. I mean, not that it's a 1, but I'm just saying we have to, if we're bringing it forth, we need to have something on it, don't we? The bid package for Meadow and Trail,
Yes. So I think it would be the same number as the project.
which is 2.
Yeah, I mean, put it in there. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's worth you speaking to. We all,
Oh, yeah.
we all saw it. I think the best part of this is that it went from 3 million to 1 million.
Right,
So
right.
that's fantastic.
So are we ready to vote on this as presented and discuss the changes we've made?
Lori, could I just ask a question? On this $250,000 for McGuan, where'd it go? If that's a safety issue and this money isn't gonna be available until July, and these kids do spring ball down there and everything else, would it behoove you to take it out of the budget and go for a special appropriation to get the money and dig this up like in March or the beginning of April and fix this? If it's a structural, and get a different, get another estimate on this. And if it's a structural situation, it's more of an emergency than it is waiting till July and then getting bids and then this and then that, we're out another year.
What do you think about that, Pam?
And take, then you
Well, I don't
won't
know
have
how much-
250 in the budget.
I have to say, I don't know how much of an emergency is if they've been sitting on this for 3 years until it got to us now. So I even had said in terms of this spring, perhaps they could rope off an area where they felt the cement was, where the tree roots were coming and to keep people off of that. Because we all walked it, we saw it, right? There was, near the trees, there were some lifting pieces, just, even almost like the playground, there's some lifted tiles. But, so I don't know how much of an emergency, but what they're saying is that the structural part of the building can't keep waiting and waiting at this point because it's going to get worse.
But if they've been sitting on this for 3 years and
Yeah.
not advising us, I don't think that's a horrible idea.
But also,
No, I don't think it's a horrible idea either. I don't.
But if Pam and her team can, I'm sorry to
Really?
interrupt. If you have the opportunity to have specialists come in and look at it, I mean, it's trees, right? We have a certain amount of time. And I do agree that an ounce of prevention here is certainly worth it, but if it has been 3 years, if you can have someone look at, hey, how bad is the structural integrity currently? And if it's not there, if it's 1 more year, or the idea of trying to tear it up in March is going to, I believe, cause us more problems than good.
Probably.
Yeah, with the Little League community and things like that. So I would just say, natural course, unless you bring someone in who says, hey, the batting cages are about to be flooded in April, then, okay, yes, let's absolutely deal with it as soon as possible.
Because our original request was to get a quote on the patio.
Yeah.
And then it turned into this.
All right, well, it sounds like we definitely need to do more homework on that. But we'll keep it in as a placeholder, and then if we find more that,
I think-
gee, we got another
Right.
year or whatever,
Right.
you can always go back and say, you know what?
Yes.
Yeah. And also potentially talk to the Darien Athletic Commission and Or we can see if there's other people who'd be willing to help out in
Mm-hmm.
different areas if we need to.
Yeah, the athletic foundation is definitely somebody
yeah.
to talk to.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody comfortable with that approach then? It sounds like, yeah, we need to get, more of a formal written assessment.
Yes,
Thanks, Pam.
you're welcome.
Okay. Okay. So are we ready to vote on this, with the adjustments and corrections that we made this evening? Okay. Yep. Somebody will make a motion?
So
Amy?
moved.
Oh, give Chris the second.
And now, I'll take the second.
Amy the first, Chris the second. Okay, any more discussion?
Is that a 1 or a 2?
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, we're good. Okay, thank you. Operating budget, hopefully that will go more, hopefully that'll go more quickly.
So operating, I made I put in a few little red comments on the side. Nothing has changed since last month, other than a slight increase in our conference fees, which is $100, that's nothing. And then if you go down further, under beach and court facilities, I increased the beach deckers from 9,000 to 10,000, which, again, slight increase. And then if you turn to the back page, I did decrease the buddy program by 2,500 due to changing our approach on that program to make it more of a volunteer rather than paid program. And then I highlighted 2 increases. One is to increase 10,000 to include Highland Farm with pest control for the geese, and to increase $3,000 to add rain barrels to Tilly, Cherry Lawn Gardens, Weed Beach, and Pear Tree. I thought that would have been a nice addition there. And I also did not highlight, but in between those 2 highlighted areas, under facility repair and maintenance, I did increase the invasive budget from 8,000 to 16,000. And this is basically based on the fact that our vendor, who we no longer have, who came in at $8,000 last year, which we all felt was extremely low, and not even knowing what the reason why this vendor has backed out, I can only assume that it's because we didn't have as much money. That's the only thing. So I raised it to 16, hoping that, again, we need to reevaluate what needs to be completed at Cherry Lawn from the work that Charles did, what's left with this A, B, and C areas, and then, of course, additional parks that we want to hit. So those are the major changes from last month.
That's a lot of money for rain barrels.
3,000?
Mm-hmm.
I had staff member do all this research on it, and she was very thorough, and it's kind of, again, there's a range on that, so you can get anything from a low range to a high range, and we thought that the 3,000 was a decent range. But yes, would reduce that to 2 and still get them? Yes.
Do we need to increase anything for the geese control at Tilly? Or was that already there?
Right now, we're fine. Yeah. The only reason I increased that was because
It didn't include Highland Farm
it didn't
before.
include it. I only had them move there when there was the issue at Tilly. So when the guy
Well,
was.
because I know the guy left Tilly too at one point.
Well, he
so-
left. He didn't want to work there anymore, so I sent him to Highland.
So we used the Tilly money for
Right.
Highland.
Right.
Now we're doing both.
Got it.
And now we came back,
Yeah.
and now we're not doing Highland anymore,
Oh.
because we don't have those funds for that.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So now
okay.
we're getting complaints in Highland. So now I just put in money for
Yeah.
So I can't run that dogs there. There is no money at Highland right now.
It's
because
like robbing John to pay.
Right, exactly right. So, the biggest budget drivers of this budget is the proposing the new full-time position, the program coordinator, adding money in for fireworks, the additional 10,000 for the geese at Highland, and doubling the 8,000 to 16,000 for invasives. Those are the 4 areas that are the biggest budget drivers, if there's any increases, are those 4 things.
So you're really, other than the position, but you're partially funding that by collapsing some part-time positions.
Right, and removing $66,000 out of our current operating budget.
Right,
Right, right.
so.
So the rain barrel water is to water what, plants that are new plants that have been planted in these spaces, or what do you
Yeah,
think?
I think it's just a good sustainable.
It's just that, I guess, are there places to put them? Like, because,
Well, I thought Cherry Lawn Gardens is a no-brainer.
yeah, but you have to come,
Would
the
be
water
great.
has to come from like a gutter or a roof off a building.
Which could come off the bathhouse.
Yeah, and then
Mhm.
it goes down, and then the water then has to be transported to
With a
where you need,
hose.
you know, yeah. But it's gravity fed, so you have to have it like a
Mhm.
certain height and
Right,
stuff.
and I know with the 3,000 to Val, who did the research for me, it's everything included, like the hoses and all the other things that you need with the, so it's not just the barrel. But, you know, that's the intention would be obviously to offset our potable water account by using natural rainwater wherever
So who
needed.
would be watering with the natural rainwater? Like, are you seeing volunteers doing that, or like,
Or staff.
or staff?
Mhm. I mean, we have one at Weed Beach. I wasn't even aware of it.
You do?
There's one right next to
Right
the
by the
security hut.
guardhouse,
Didn't
yeah.
even know anything about it
And
until a
nobody uses
couple.
it.
And so now, and the garden club was unaware. So
Yeah.
now that they know, you know. we
It's
can-
at the guardhouse, right? You said?
It's at the
Mhm.
guardhouse, so
It's
that
always
they
been
would
there.
be, you know, they just cut back all the plants in front of the guardhouse because it was getting so overgrown, and they put in some shorter versions so that it won't overgrow, and so you can't look out the window and see traffic. So they just recently did that for us, but again, it's a great tool to have that rain barrel there and use that water. So, that's the point behind it. Could we reduce it and do just Cherry Lawn? Sure. We could reduce it to $1,000 and just start with Cherry Lawn. And,
I just want to know that people are using it, because it's an investment.
right,
You know?
right.
And I actually feel like your invasive budget isn't that high, to be honest with you. I
Mhm.
think there's
It's
so
not.
much more. And if I had to make a decision, and I'm very sustainable,
Mhm.
I'd like to see more money be used for
Invasives,
invasive removal.
okay.
Because that, any investment we make now will reduce how much we have to spend in the future, because those things grow
Right.
so fast.
So let's
Yeah.
increase that. I think that's a great idea. I just literally doubled it because I am perplexed about what was happening with our vendor. And I just knew that we needed more because I don't think we'd get somebody for that price.
Yeah, and I feel like there's so many more spaces that need to be taken care of. I mean, even during our tour, like, there's spaces in Weed Beach that need to be
Weed Beach,
done.
yeah.
I mean,
Correct.
in the back there.
Mhm.
And rain barrels, I mean, I have 6 myself, are,
Mhm.
like, they're great. It's just a lot of effort. Labor is involved in moving that water around,
Mhm.
and
Mm.
it's great for.
I'd be happy to reduce that to 1,000, at least start
Or
at Cherry
try
Lawn
one
Gardens.
and
Yes.
see if it's
I-
being used,
Yeah.
and use whatever monies we would have done for that and put it into the invasive budget,
Sure.
or even increase the invasive budget.
Does everyone agree with that?
More.
I'm happy with that.
Sorry, I don't mean to nitpick, but
No,
I
I'm
just.
happy
So
with
you-
that.
You're going to increase the invasives budget to what?
Sounds like 18, right? You just-
Well, if I
just
saved,
put
right.
two
So then-
From the rain barrels and put it into the invasive.
I just, one, and that would, but we could increase it to whatever we want.
But I think we've shown that it's quite effective. You guys did such a great job on the invasives committee to just have it, you know, to expand it beyond Cherry Lawn in that one space to other parks in Darien. I think that's really important that we do that, because we've shown that it looks good, it increases the usable space by our residents. So, I mean,
What about going to 24?
oh, that's a terrible number, 25. Sorry, 24 is not a good number. It means something else. 25,000 is a good number. I think if people are, I mean, they might change it again, but at least.
I'm fine with that.
Does the 2,500 include for watering these?
Oh, she means something else.
For the watering, sorry, did I thought we were talking about
Oh,
the
yeah.
rain barrels and stuff. I was just curious, does that include what we talked about, potentially hiring someone to water like plants in the summer?
No,
Okay.
no.
You have that in here.
Do you have that?
I thought I
think
did,
you do.
actually.
And she just reduced it to 1,000.
That's
No,
where
that's
the rain
different.
barrels.
That's the rain barrels.
Yeah.
That's the buy rain barrels.
Yeah, I'm actually wondering which line is.
Oh,
the
here it
one
is. It's
for-
under, is it under tree maintenance? It says
Yes.
2,500 for new water,
Water,
new
yeah,
plants.
that's
Yes,
my
I
question.
was sure it was in here.
Yeah, that's the 2,500 I'm talking about.
Okay, that's.
Okay.
And this year we had beautification dollars, which we still need to spend.
Yes.
Oh, right.
18.
18,000, which also we
Oh,
could, you know.
right.
What's
Yeah.
beautification, like, is it, like, what is that
If we
considered?
want to have annuals at the entrance to the
It's about
parks,
making each park more beautiful when you
adding-
enter. It's just like
adding bushes in if we see there's some places where you need
Planters
some
and-
planters
Which
or
would need to include the
plantings.
maintenance of them.
Mhm.
Right, and then has to.
Adirondack chairs?
No, I think it was more meant for plantings and things.
Plantings,
Yeah, but so we do have to, after the first of the year, we have to make sure we spend the money that we got this year.
Right.
But do we have another ask in?
For beautification?
Yeah.
Where was that? Facility
Ground-
repair.
Would it be
Yeah.
under that same space?
I think so. I think I just left it the same.
That's groundskeeping services, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's a new line, right?
It doesn't have the words beautification budget in it, but.
Oh, it's right here. It's groundskeeping.
Services?
Yeah, the fiscal year '24 proposal is 18.
Okay. So we'll ask for the same.
Right, the only problem will be they'll look and they'll say, well, you haven't
You
spent
haven't
any of
spent it
this.
yet.
Right,
We'll say,
so
well, because we're gonna
we're
do
going
it
to.
in one spring.
Right.
And that's where we can go around and just say other places, you know,
Yeah, that's when it's the
that
ideal
need some
time.
more,
Watering.
well, watering, but also just plants.
Color.
Yeah, planting and
Yeah,
what?
planting, I mean, both, because some stuff, I'm sure we lost stuff
Mhm.
over
Yeah.
last summer. I mean, I think we all lost stuff, so, but even, you know, the stuff that was put in Tilly, I know was some that was gone. I don't know if the garden club
It
replaced that
doesn't
or
necessarily
not.
mean you can't do, annuals because they look beautiful.
Right, as long as
And the
there's something,
parks, when
yeah.
you're coming and you're, you're
Yeah.
visiting the parks.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
it could
we
be
all
all-
go away and we go to these different parks and we go, oh my God,
The
look how
annuals are
beautiful they
unbelievable,
are.
yeah, yeah, okay.
I just feel like that title is very misleading or not accurate. I just feel like.
Beautification.
Is it beautification or is it called groundskeeping services?
Oh, well, we added the groundskeeping services as a new line. It was never there.
Oh, but
So
it is
that-
beautification.
Do you have a
Yes.
choice as to what you can call it, or do you have like, is it like a pick list that you have to just in the
I
program?
think Jen did that for me.
Okay.
Because we wanted to put it into a new line and she
Okay.
headed that line. I can manipulate what's in that line
Mhm.
and I can manipulate the word beautification.
Okay.
I just think that
but
would be
not
more
the title.
Because right now it was confusing. I didn't know what that was. I was like,
Right, I only figured it out because of the number,
Yeah,
Right.
the 18.
but,
Yeah. that was good.
I could
But maybe the
certainly
Board of
ask Jen
Selectmen
to
wouldn't-
change that.
Yeah, just to make it
Right.
easier to
Yeah.
know for the
Could have her to
future,
do that.
that we're not missing
or
out on
just
that.
slash beautification, because
Yeah.
then what if the Board of Selectmen don't
Know what it is.
know that, like what beautification?
Yeah, I'll just have her add beautification in there
Okay,
Okay.
sounds great.
on the title.
Other questions, comments, good suggestions? Okay, then are we ready to vote?
Oh, can
Oh.
sorry. Is there, did you add the gate guard at Pear Tree to stay on until the end of September? We had talked about that a while back.
No, we did not.
So the gate guard leaves on Labor Day
Mhm.
at Pear Tree and stays at Weed.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
And basically, the the history on that is just that it's so much busier, so many more things going on because the facilities of tennis and paddle and playground and the rentals of the picnic areas, and so there are just so many more things going on there that the justification is definitely there for Weed Beach, but it's not there for Pear Tree. Even Pear Tree, even this past summer, it was very slow. Very, very
It was,
slow.
but the minute the gate guards leave, I hate to mention the three-letter word, dogs arrive, and a lot of out-of-towners come. A lot. And we are inundated there. The minute he leaves.
That's a commission.
But
Yeah, we-
it is a public beach.
It is, but they can't get in the weed because there's a guard there.
Right, but because it is also because we're controlling the use of the tennis courts and the use of the paddle courts and.
Yeah. Mhm.
Any other thought or comment on that?
I'll make a motion to approve the operating budget as amended.
Okay,
for
thanks, Susan.
FY '24.
Thanks, Susan. Second, Janet? Okay, all in favor? Opposed?
Okay.
Nope, okay, all right. Maybe we can motor through the rest of this quickly. We have to vote on the meeting schedule. We discussed it last month, and I sent it out to you all again. The third Wednesday of each month actually works well every month vis-a-vis school calendars. The only suggestion that we had talked about, the third Wednesday in December would be December 20th, which seemed a little close to Christmas and everything. So suggesting moving that to the 13th, which would be comparable to our meeting, which is why we're here today and not next week. So that was the only one with the suggestion that we switch. But if everybody's good on this schedule, we can just take a motion.
I likely can't attend the one in March, because that's my kid's spring break.
Okay, yeah, there, I mean, we're all gonna have, yeah,
Some conflict.
some, yeah, we're all gonna have some conflict, so. Okay, Chris, second? Mary Louise?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, opposed? Okay, so that's done. It was easy peasy. And I believe Tamara actually already went ahead and reserved the rooms for us,
Great.
just because she,
Thank
you know,
you.
just knew she was, so.
'Cause she's so good.
And
Yeah,
she's so
she is
good, and
really
I
good.
think we're here until April or something, and then move down to the paddle hut over the summer, which we all really like. Yeah. Okay, Pam, director's report.
Yeah, so the ductless air conditioning at Weed Beach is in and operating, or, well, it's not on right now, but it's in and it's ready to be used for the spring and summer of 2023. We did an RFP to go out for services for the kayak company for summer of 2023. Those are just kind of highlights of my report. The gazebo, cherry lawn gazebo roof is on and looks beautiful and had many, many comments about it. And they did that very quickly, within a couple days. Let's see,
Very pretty in the snow, too.
yeah,
Yeah, one picture, and I took a picture the next day when it snowed. It was beautiful.
Looks beautiful.
So thank you for getting it done.
you got it.
We're
Yeah,
impressed.
and Pam, remind everybody where we are then on getting the bids to do the remainder of the work, since we already have the families chapter sitting there.
Oh, great.
So we have to go out to bid for the remaining work, which is the handicap ramp and the railings and various floorboards, I'll say. And so I was waiting for Gunner Roofing, who did the gazebo roof, to come back with quotes for that work. But he came back with quotes that were higher than the other vendors. So,
So why wouldn't we just use one of those other quotes?
because those were just an addendum at the bottom of that
Oh,
RFP.
so you can't use
I was
it.
trying to figure out whether or not we would end up having enough money
Okay,
in total. So we'll need to go out to bid for that work. and then that will justify and determine whether or not that 20 from the family is absolutely enough.
Yeah,
So
but if it's
I-
not, we haven't put money in the budget to make up the difference.
No, but that will be something that I suppose, depending on how far off, if it is off, then either we look to see whether my budget can handle that difference, or we need to request funding. I don't think we're gonna be too far off.
Okay.
I think based on
You said the roofing itself cost how much?
the roof job that just was completed was 12,500.
12. So
And we
you have
had
25.
15. We
yeah.
had 15,
You have
so-
2,500 left.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. So I think with the bidding process, we'll find that even just like Gunner Roofing, he was considerably different, lower cost than the other vendors. Maybe even $8,000 difference.
And then he
Um,
came up higher.
Well,
the-
for the other work, he was higher than the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
vendors, so, and certainly he gets it's public. it's
He's got his little
Public
sign there.
information, so I'm
Yeah.
sure when he saw his low bid, he was probably a little disappointed he bid so low.
Oh.
So he probably, when he came back doing the bidding for the rest of the job, wasn't going to bid all that low, so
Okay.
we'll see.
All right,
So-
just timing on getting that going. I'm just concerned because the family has sent the money and we're sitting on a check. And we need to go through the process of getting the gift accepted, and there's a timeline there, so.
Right, so
I
that will
think
be
there's
my next.
some real urgency to moving that
my
along.
next, job to get that RFP going. And I'm just gonna give a shout out to the Chris Filmer celebration, which was phenomenal.
Oh,
Cassie,
you guys
thank
did
you
a
very
nice
much
job.
Cassie did a phenomenal
Thanks
job
to
with the
Cassie.
video.
It
That
was very good.
It was a wonderful, wonderful evening. And, Chris was just speechless.
He was.
And the Darien tree lighting was really tough. It was terrible weather and poured on us, and that was really tough. And then, of course, our old-fashioned holiday was this past Saturday, and it was fabulous. And at this point right now, I'm working with Cassie and the rest of the staff about moving forward with our brochure and new programming and event list for 2023. And I made an announcement yesterday to the staff that let's not forget that December can seem slow, but then it starts to we lose momentum. So we have to really pay attention to the time we have in December to not lose track of how quickly January, February, and March happen for us in the spring and summer, so. It's looking good. Everything else in the report, self-explanatory.
Great, thanks, Pam. Any questions for Pam?
I would just want the minutes to state that the old-fashioned holiday event was fantastic. Kudos to you and your entire team.
Thank you.
So many people, and it felt so great just across the board. And I would say the average age of children seemed like 3, 4, 5,
great.
but it was amazing to see new folks coming through, people from out of state.
And what's wonderful about it
Yeah.
too, it's just so it's simple.
Exactly,
It's
yeah.
not, there's not anything, and of course, we did talk about things that we'd like to add, but we want to keep the simplistic nature of it as well. So it was wonderful.
Also, nice work just having ducks in the pond.
I know,
Yogis.
huh?
I don't know how you did it, but nice
They
work.
were eating all the
No.
popcorn that was on the ground.
Even better?
Even better.
No problem.
Pam, I just have one question. Do reindeer really have to eat hot chocolate?
No. She's referencing
Stumped.
the compost
Oh.
bucket. We'd introduced kind of a way to help the kids kind of learn a little bit
Understand
about
education.
composting. I kind of created if you don't finish your cocoa, it's okay, dump it in this bucket here and put your compostable bucket in this spot here. And, Santa's reindeer really love cocoa, and we got a fair share. I would say we've got a pretty good amount of cups that were composted. And kids who are reading and stopping it, and that's kind of something I'm hoping.
I think
to
the learning
introduce.
lesson too, for us, we definitely needed more volunteers. And so some of the volunteers that said they were coming didn't show up, and so thankfully we had a full staff from our office there. But, that particular education station could have just used somebody there educating as the kids came through, this is where you would put your cups, and this is where you would, so I think, next year, we talked about various ways of finding new volunteers, and we really would like to maybe even tap into our senior center more so than always being driven about kids, you know, and really looking at that population, helping us out, so.
So there may be the, you know, residents of Atria or the residents of Selleck's Wood.
Yes.
It was very clever, though, the whole thing. Very well.
Well, thank you for coming.
Any other questions for Pam? Okay, I don't have too much that I didn't mention already. As I said, we're doing the presentation to the selectmen on Monday night. All interested parties are welcome. And Pam and Susan and Monica and I met with the Darien Foundation, who have expressed interest in kind of rekindling the discussion about some level of support for the Weed Beach Meadow and Trail project. So we had a good preliminary meeting, and we've been asked back for early January to make a formal presentation. So Pam and I and Susan will be there to do that. So we're working on, meanwhile, there's a form that's got to be filled out and submitted, grant application. So we're scrambling to get that buttoned up and ready and in, because that's due by Monday. So that is going on. Now I can't read my own writing. I hate when that happens. Spiritual approval.
We want to talk about the dog stuff.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the dogs. Yeah, new business. The other thing I'll just mention with the Nature Center parking, Pam has been accommodating the Nature Center with a reduced from our standard schedule fee for using some of the overflow parking for their programs. But in discussing this, and they've come back with some requests, we've done some research and concluded that what they changed their sort of drop off and how they use the site during COVID, but now they'd like to maintain it. Unfortunately, what they're doing is in violation of the special permit, which was renegotiated back a few years ago. So we're really going to have to work with them now. They're going to have to, we've consulted with Jeremy Ginsburg, and they're really going to have to come back in and, you know, make a case to have the special permit, you know, updated. And then we have to really consider, you know, because they are taking up during the day parking spaces for what's already a very crowded park. You know, we heard all about pickleball earlier, and during the day, even, you know, all the pickleball plays taking up a lot of extra spaces. At some point, we'll have a new playground, so, you know, we do have new tennis court, so we really do have to be mindful of the limited parking resource there. So we're gonna need to work through that process with them, so that'll be playing out in due course. And I think that is it. I think that's it. Those are the highlights. Okay, so as I mentioned, if someone would make a motion to go into new business so that we can, Susan, talk about the dog program. Second? Chris? Okay. I did send out, I put everything on one piece of paper.
There's some back.
Now I can't put my paws on.
The only,
There it is. Okay. Okay, so hopefully this laid it out kind of clearly, like, because I realized there were some other parts of the rules that had to be fixed as a result that were incorrect. So hopefully it was clear what I was trying to do here.
it looks great, I was gonna say. The only thing, I think I mentioned it at the last meeting.
You did, and I noticed that after I sent this out.
It's just, I think we need to be crystal clear about those pathways behind the paddle hut. Because that's so easy to, like, do a walk with, you know, people might think it's it's not off limits, and it is right now at this point. So just being specific, we're so specific in this document.
Right, so I'll say remaining areas of the beach, comma, bathhouse area, or the wooded trails?
Yeah, I could, that's
Would
fine.
that work?
Yeah. Or wooded trails, like behind the paddle hut or something. Like, just so those are delineated, because right now, they're not. I mean, once you get specific, it's hard to then, it's one thing to say, oh, it's only the beach area, but now we're naming specific areas, so I think we should name all the specific areas.
Spaces around the courts. I mean,
Like
I think
behind
all
it.
of that, yeah.
Yeah. So, because right now, it's only going to stay at the beach.
Okay.
Right, always.
Yeah.
But I do think it's nice to have cleaned up this, the document itself.
Yep. Yeah, well, I realized we had never corrected it for Diller.
I know, I was just looking there, yeah, when you said that, I was like, yeah, you're right.
Oops.
I
Okay,
mean, the signage is up, but our rules aren't.
the rules need to match. What we'll need to do, so Pam, I'll clean this up, get it over, because someone, we'll just figure out who has to actually take the rules document and make these changes.
Well, I'll make it,
Okay.
yeah.
And then I think we have to give it to the police.
Okay, send them a copy.
Yeah,
Sure.
I feel like the police and somebody else, but we'll figure it out. But anyways, we have to get them posted. But then also on our website, at some point, when Jamie was still here, she did the Darien Diggs dog, like one pager. And I glanced at that, and I think that needs to be updated as well. So we'll have to make sure that that mirrors this, because that's a really nice reference point. People don't have to go wading through our rules and find section 42R 29B2. So that's a great document, but we just need to make sure that they
Okay.
match. Okay. Okay, so everybody's cool with this, with the slight changes that we discussed?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll take a motion. Susan? Amy, second? All in favor? Okay, cool. Okay. And
So
Pam?
that means the program is now permanent, right?
Yes, unless,
Subject to,
unless I did pop in, as I put in my note, that, you know, in Pam's sole judgment, if just, and I do not foresee this happening, but all of a sudden, it just became a hot mess. We don't have to want to wait for another commission meeting or whatever, and she can just say, you know,
Can we vote?
we're canceling. Yes, we did the vote. Did we just vote?
I know we did the motions, I just didn't hear.
Did we vote? We did vote. Let's vote again. Make sure we voted. All in favor, yes.
And then we
All
have to vote to
opposed?
adjourn.
Yeah, I thought we did.
Motion to
Okay.
adjourn.
Motion, let me just double check. Yes. Susan?
Yep.
Janet?
Anybody?
All in favor? And nobody opposed.
Thank you.
Okay, we are out, Channel 79.